there was just something about Jesus that made him irresistible. When he looked at you, it was as if he was looking straight through you, through all the skin and bone, right to your very soul. When he spoke, you listened. That was why I had left my collection booth the day he said, "Levi, follow me." It was why I was on this dusty road into Jericho with him. It was busy on that road. Jesus was starting to make a name for himself, and that was a great thing. He'd been teaching and preaching and doing miracles in the area for a while now, and people were starting to take notice. They were starting to seek him out. But that made it a little difficult. I made it really hard to get anywhere, and certainly to get away anywhere without them noticing. Every step we took us further into a hot, sweaty mess of a crowd. And if you weren't careful, you could get an elbow in the eye or a crushed toe from your sandals. So we were moving nowhere fast when we were just trying to get to our accommodations for the evening. We had arranged with a few of our supporters to put us up, when Jesus got that twinkle in his eye, the one that told us he was up to something, and he started gently but insistently moving through the crowd towards a sycamore tree. I was just starting to wonder what was so special about that particular tree when he started to speak. "Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today." Huh? What? No. This guy was not on the approved list of residences for Jesus. But Jesus had other ideas. When Zacchaeus got to the ground, I got my first glimpse of him, and I immediately knew who he was, or rather what he was. He was a fellow tax collector. His fine clothes and the way he carried himself told the story. But if they hadn't, the way that the crowd avoided him and averted their eyes would have. They had once done the same thing to me. As we went towards Zacchaeus' house, the crowd thinned. It was a lot easier going because people were avoiding him and giving him a wide berth. Once upon a time, they had done the same to me, and it had made me feel powerful. Now it just made me feel sad. When we arrived at Zacchaeus' house, he was so excited to share his home with us. And I don't blame him. It was a beautiful home. He produced bowls of water for us to wash our feet. He brought out food and drink to satisfy our stomachs. He was a gracious host, and we spent the whole afternoon in pleasant conversation on many different topics. As it got closer to evening, the rest of the disciples and I started to look at each other and try to figure out who was going to draw the short straw and have to tell Jesus that really we should be on our way. Eventually, all eyes fell onto Peter, which, if I'm being honest, they usually did. And Peter waited for the appropriate time in the conversation and then said, "Lord, it's getting close to dark, and we have people waiting for us with beds ready and food being prepared. We should be on our way. Zacchaeus, we thank you for your hospitality and opening your home to us, but we won't be imposing on you any further. We'll take our leave." I thought it was very diplomatic. That wasn't always Peter's strong suit. But Jesus didn't seem to think so. He looked at Peter and he said, "You guys go on ahead and stay with our hosts. Thank them for opening their homes to you. I will stay with Zacchaeus, and I'll see you again in the morning." That wasn't the plan, but we did it. We got up and said thank you very much to Zacchaeus and took our leave. When we got out to the front street, there was a crowd grumbling to each other and to themselves about the fact that Jesus had chosen to spend time with Zacchaeus, a tax collector and sinner, not one of the respectable people in town. That grumbling grew even louder when, in response to their queries as to where Jesus was and why he wasn't with us, we said that he was going to spend the night with Zacchaeus, and we'd be back in the morning. Hearing their grumbling stung. They say that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's just not true. To hear vile names called out at you all day, every day, takes its toll on anyone. And to get through it, you have to harden your heart so that those words don't penetrate. My heart had once been hardened to them, but since I'd been spending time with Jesus, it had softened again, and I cringed with every stinging word. When we arrived back at Zacchaeus' house the next morning, the crowd was there again, or maybe they never left, I'm not quite sure. But I was glad when we got into the courtyard and I didn't have to face them anymore. When we arrived, Jesus and Zacchaeus were just finishing breakfast, and they were both smiling and seemed quite comfortable in each other's company. As we approached the table, I heard Zacchaeus say, "Look, half of my possessions, Lord, I will give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone anything, I will pay back 4 times as much." With that, Jesus' smile turned into a grin, and he jumped up, yelling, "Today salvation has come to this house, for he too is a son of Abraham, and the Son of Man has come to seek out and to save the lost." He wrapped his arms around Zacchaeus, giving him a great big bear hug, and Zacchaeus looked shocked when Jesus' arms went around him. But soon the words started to sink in, and he started to grin, and so did we. Zacchaeus was a lost sheep of Jesus' flock, and Jesus was so excited that Zacchaeus wanted to come home to the fold with him. He was like that every time someone new joined our little group. The circumstances were always different, but there was always a moment when Jesus just knew that the person he was talking to finally really understood what it was that Jesus had been saying. And he was always over the moon excited. Eventually, once things calmed down a little bit, Jesus said we should probably take our leave so that we could go and meet and teach the people of Jericho. But he promised that he would come back and stay with Zacchaeus again that evening. As we walked, Jesus told us stories. He told us parables about this crazy, upside-down kingdom of God. And as he did, I started to think more deeply about this crazy, upside-down man, this irresistible person I was following. I know when I had seen Zacchaeus, I had seen him only as an interruption to our schedule, as some potential trouble with the authorities. But Jesus had seen him differently. Jesus had seen him as a lost sheep and had gone out of his way to go and be present with Zacchaeus. There's a lot of things I can learn from Jesus, but that's one of them. So today, and every day, I'm going to try to be more like the one I follow. This wonderful, loving, crazy, irresistible Messiah, Jesus of Nazareth.